Episode 126, Rich versus Poor, Income versus Expenses.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And we are into another week. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness, and removing poisons from your life. So how'd that go for everyone on Friday? There was one email that I got over the weekend, which was totally interesting. Where the writer said that his wife had actually so many. Well, I would be giving it away. So many of one particular item that it was kind of becoming insanely poisonous for her because she paid so much attention to the items and cleaning and maintaining them that he was feeling neglected in their relationship. I found that insanely funny, but there are so many poisons which can really become a major part of our life. Be it exercise and sports, which for some people becomes this thing. Hey, I need to get and maintain fit, which is totally legitimate. But there is this rush that kind of comes the rush is a result of the sport. So, it gets kind of like this addiction that some people really get tied to. And, that being said, there's so many different versions of poison in our life that I think, it's insanely important to pay close attention, not only to yourself and, the new life principles that have been, kind of dictated upon us. You become kind of complacent with your situation. And I talked to somebody in retail the other day in fashion retail, and they were like, "We're not selling anything except for jogging pants," So it's like a lot of these people are sitting in their home offices. And, despite the fact that they have video conferences, they don't bother exchanging their jogging pants for, tracksuit for a pair of jeans or for, for anything really. It's like, why bother? It's the opposite end can only see, if at all, the top half of your body. So, why bother with the bottom part? So that being said, pay attention to yourself, not only to yourself, but also to your surrounding. If you see, some people slacking, help them, because essentially, you're taking care of yourself rather than, of anyone else with the effort that you put in to your body and your mind. That being said, today's episode is rather interesting, and it's based on an image that I found, which, deals with rich and poor and income and expenses. And so it's really about the difference between wealthy people and why they stay wealthy, and poor people and why they stay poor. It's about leveraging income versus expenses. So, to keep your expenses linear or horizontal while your income grows. That's really what it's about. And poor people, will essentially attempt to increase their lifestyle according to their income. And so you have this parallel line. So, imagine a diagram with an X and a Y axis, right? So the horizontal X axis is time, and the vertical axis is money, the Y axis. So, for poor people, when the income increases, so does their lifestyle, their expenses of their lifestyle. They have to look good for other people, right? They have to drive an impressive car because, that's what you do, and that's why, the poor people stay poor because, as soon as they get the money into their hands, they feel entitled to rewards for their hard work or labor. And that's an interesting thing because we're never taught that in school. You immediately knew what an x-axis was and a y-axis. You could immediately imagine that the diagram that I was drawing, right? Because it was pounded into your head by your math teacher, right? And that's a very interesting analogy. Now, I need you to go back and remember when, except for those who later in their education majored in economics, I need you to go back to that time where your teacher told you, that it doesn't really matter what kind of car you drive, right? It doesn't really matter what kind of income you have, and you should be frugal with the money that you make because it is at the end of the at the end of the line. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm kind of staggering here, right? At the end of the day, it's an exchange, right? For most of us, time for money, right? So you invest the only asset that you can't, under any circumstances, get back. Every minute of time that you waste is wasted forever. You're not going to get it back, period. No discussions. And you exchange that for a certain amount of money, which for some people is more, for other people it's less, right? Depending on your qualifications, depending on, how good of a salesperson of yourself you are, but also, and that's very truthful, of how you appear to a job interview when you want to land a job, right? If you go there in your slides, if you go there in your tracksuit, you've got a very much or a reduced chance of landing the job, as opposed to the person who dresses up, and has taken care of themselves. That's it's just whether it's rightful or not, it does influence the opinion of the person hiring you, independent of what your qualifications are. So that being said, poor people, and it doesn't mean only monetarily poor, but mainly what it refers to is a poor mind. You think that you have to impress your colleagues, coworkers, and you have to think, and you think that you have to impress, upon society. You have, you have your 500 euro cashmere sweater with a whatever Tommy Hilfiger emblem on it, so that everyone can see that you paid $500 for it, or euros, or whatever. And that's the point, really, where things go south. It's about feeling comfortable. It's about feeling good in what you're wearing. And, that's essentially, at the end of the day, the thing that makes you unique and that makes you authentic, most of all. Most importantly is, your authenticity, right? So going back to the example with going to a job interview in your in your tracksuit, if you're good at selling yourself, that's what I mentioned earlier, good on you, But for most people, it's less about self-esteem than it is about, being authentic and being proud of what they are, right? We went into that a few episodes ago. So anyhow, rich people, you have a consistent line that's parallel to the x-axis of time, which is their expenses, which are their expenses. Sorry. However, you have a progressively increasing line exponentially increasing line. Sorry, I'm not a native English speaker. It's not my mother tongue. But you have an exponentially increasing line, which is their income, which far supersedes that income of the quote unquote poor person's income, right? And that's because these people are frugal. They have the opportunity to save money, to invest, and while their income increases later in life, a bit later, it's about that time they saved and invested the money that allows them to retire earlier. It allows them to, have a healthier lifestyle, more importantly, because still, access to less convenient but more healthy food is still a pricey issue. And even cooking, as someone that is very passionate about cooking, it takes a fucking lot of time, and you have to be able to commit that amount of time to preparing a healthy, holistic meal. You have to know what you're doing. You have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy standing in the kitchen for 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 hours to prepare a meal that is gone in half an hour. Look at it that way. Not only from a monetary perspective, that the produce you put into the food has to be, more of higher quality. So you have to be able to afford that, but you also have to be able to afford to invest the time 7 days a week, right? Because let's face it, if you go to a restaurant, you don't know what's in the food that you're getting. You don't know where the cook got the produce from. At the end of the day, you don't know if you spit in the pan to see if it's hot. And there's actually people who do that. Sorry. And so that being said, that's really the diagram, right? So the income of the rich people increases exponentially because, they invest their money. They have earned, while their expenses stay the same, right? So most importantly, it's about mindset, right? A rich person is usually exceptionally passionate about what they do, right? Whatever that may be. And we went over that, look in the search bar for the keyword passion, about what I mean by being passionate about your job, for instance, right? The money they earn gets invested into other projects, right? So the stock market, for instance, but also in projects they do themselves. And that's why their income increases exponentially rather than staying linear, as does the income of the poor person. And yes, the poor person will, over the course of their career, have an increase in their income, right? That's over time. But they will immediately blow that increased income that they have on rewards to sweeten their free time. And that's something you see very rarely in rich people. They don't have free time necessarily. Their pastime is their passion for what they do. And I think at the end of the day, that is what it boils down to. So in that sense, I hope I was able to bring a little bit of clarity into that. I hope I was able to convey visually what this diagram tried to outline. And so if you know someone that is kind of like in this trap where, they need to settle down a bit in terms of their spending because it may be better for their life, make sure to share this podcast episode with them. If you have not subscribed to this podcast yet, shame on you. You're missing out on all the good stuff. And keep in mind, instead of all of these ass rapists who try to pick your pocket, this podcast is and will probably forever stay free. And make sure to reward that by subscribing and making sure the message gets heard. So in that sense, I wish you the rest of a successful Monday, and not a mundane Monday, but a Monday. And if you've already had a successful Monday, have a good night, and we'll be in touch tomorrow again when we're going to talk about an episode that the title of which I haven't really framed yet. So let's be surprised for tomorrow. Stay safe, and we'll be with each other again tomorrow.